Good evening, one and all, and welcome to yet another episode of Caribbean Feedback. My name is Curtis Hadley. I will be your moderator this evening. Welcome, one and all. Good evening, Miss Forrester. How are you doing today?
Hi, everybody.
No, I say good evening to you.
Nada. Sure.
But I have a
good no man. Hi, everybody.
I didn't say good evening, everybody. I said I was specific. Good evening, Karin. Good evening, Miss Forrester. How are you?
Well, go on. I good.
Good. Like to hear that. Hashtag truth. Mrs. Samuel Archer, how are you doing today?
Greetings. I am doing very fabulous. Just staying alive and being alive at this time of the year is a beautiful thing. So I just want to, it's good to have you guys on board. We've been soldiering through with Caribbean Feedback, and it feels very good. I must say, very, very good.
Just last week we celebrated our 75th episode. And as I always like to say, it just shows what persistence, what tenacity can do when you keep putting one foot in front of the other. Sometimes you don't necessarily need to see the destination that you're going to. You just need to keep moving.
And
keep faith. Moving through the fog. Keep moving through the fire.
And have faith.
Sometimes in life, people say, oh, I'm going through hell. And the one bit of advice I give to them is keep going. And some people say, what? You want me to keep going through hell? I say, well, you prefer to stand up one place?
Joanne, welcome.
No, so when you're going through hell, keep going. When you're going through fire, keep going. Don't stand still. By all means, don't turn back. Keep pushing forward. And tonight, we are at our 76th episode, and we continuously going strong. Good evening, one and all the people joining us in the back room this evening, Miss Lucy O'Brien, Miss Joanne M. I'm not so sure I'm familiar with that name, but good evening to you. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for joining us. And Sam.
Yes, sir.
Run the thing.
Yeah. Let's let this person say hi.
Oh, Miss Angela Lamont. Good evening. Virtual hug to you too, my sis.
All right, we're running the tape.
My name is Karin Forrester. I represent Bantu Creations. Bantu Creations offers beautifully made, African-inspired, lightweight, handcrafted, one-of-a-kind earrings in wonderful shapes, shades, sizes, and colors. Please don't be scared of the large sizes. They're extremely lightweight earrings. Bantu Creations can be found on IG and on Facebook as Bantu Creations. That's Bantu Creations with a K.
Come check me out, chriskeys.com. I'm worldwide.
Tony Altamirano.
Hi, I'm Gina.
What's up, everybody? I'm Win Vu, award-winning remixer.
Koya, I'm an artist.
Hi, my name's Justina Bethel.
Hi, I'm Mike Bowen from Denton, Texas.
How you doing? This is Tom Cutt from Music by Tom Cutt. Check out Samuel E. Archer's book, Hybrid Executive. We are in the business, and here's how you can be a better business person because you're running your business.
You can find my music at JustinaBeth_EL on Instagram or JustinaBethel.com, and I am a hybrid executive.
I'm a hybrid executive.
I'm a hybrid executive, just like you.
Follow me at Koya Music, and I'm also a hybrid executive.
I'm worldwide, baby, but just know I'm a hybrid executive. That's all you need to know, baby.
Get on up, B.
Check out my music, MikeBowen.com. I'm a hybrid executive.
I'm a hybrid executive.
Just
Welcome
like
back.
you.
Just like you. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. This evening, I want to talk about family business. No, not like the mob, not that kind of business. Nothing secretive. I want to talk about family business. The importance of creating, investing in, and supporting family business. A lot of us support family business on a daily basis, and we may not necessarily know it. Yeah. Sometimes you ask a friend or a family member to give you support, and it's like, oh yeah, he doing a little thing there. And then they're very condescending. They turn around and they ask you, so how that little business going?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. How that little business you have going? Yeah, I say, well, how that little job you have going? You know, what I'm doing is mine. What you're doing is not necessarily yours. Somebody else pulling the strings and could cut them loose at any time. So if we have to support family business, let us learn and get in the habit of supporting our own family businesses. Because like I previously said, a lot of us do it on a daily basis and we don't necessarily know. Years ago, a guy named Ted Harrison, he founded the Carnival Cruise Lines, which is being run today by his children. You all familiar with the Carnival Cruise Lines, the big ship that go all through the Caribbean? Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's a family business. And guess what? They have a market cap of $37 billion.
Gotta clap that up.
This guy, Ted, his son, is the owner of the Miami Heat. Understand the kind of bread you have to be controlling to be able to buy a basketball team as an individual. That's a family business. Some of you may be familiar with a guy named Phil Knight. He has been the face of Nike since the company was founded back in 1964. He recently stepped down as chairman and is now his son, Travis Knight, will be continuing the family's legacy. Nike, family business. Every time you hear about the luxury sports car, Porsche, remember the Porsches are descendants of Ferdinand Porsche, the founder of the car company that still bears his name up to this day. Porsche, yeah, family business. How many of us own a Samsung phone? Did you know that the Samsung Group is a family-run business started in South Korea? Market cap, $174 billion. Every time any of you have ever purchased a Hallmark card for a loved one's birthday or Christmas, guess what? You supported a family-owned business. Hallmark is a family-owned business. The list goes on and on. Facebook, Anheuser-Busch, Dole Food Company, and yeah, one we all familiar with, Walmart.
Yeah, well, that one I'm definitely.
All family-run businesses.
Yeah.
What the question I ask, why is it that many of us, and when I say us, why is it we do not have sufficient faith within ourselves or enough faith in the matriarch or patriarch of our families who may start and run a business? Why we don't have enough faith to invest our time into that business and help it grow? We look at our parents and say, oh, he doing his little thing there, man. But I want to go over so. Oh, yeah. My mother, she have a little thing she do. She makes some cake and yeah. We're going to make some sweet bread and some little buns and thing. Yeah, that's my mother thing she doing, man, you know. But I want to go over so and do this job. And I grew up in Trinidad looking at some of the Indian community, how they operated. When they have a store, that little Indian boy and girl, they write in the store after school. That's where they do their homework. That's where they eat their snacks, right in the store. And they learn how to operate that business. They may not be active in it, but they learn by listening, by hearing. They understand the language. They understand how to deal with the customers from a very young age by being present in the business. Now, one of the things that tend to make a lot of small businesses fail is poor management. I'm not necessarily talking about business management, but self-management, which is something we have to pay attention to. As business owners, we cannot practice the same bad habits we develop working 9 to 5. Some of us think that just because now you're the boss, it's okay for you to walk in 15 minutes late and take unscheduled extended breaks. As a business owner, we have to work twice as hard to ensure the success of our business and venture. It have no such thing as early when you have to come to work. It have no such thing as late when it comes to operating your own business. You have to work twice, 3 times, 10 times as hard as when you're doing a job in order to make your business succeed. Family, talk to me about some of the common mistakes we make when setting up family businesses. Some of the common mistakes we made that we need to correct when we set up family businesses. In my opinion, we need to put stuff in writing. This is the only way I think we would hold individuals, partners accountable for tasks that they're responsible for. We can't keep going along with the handshake and the yeah man, we're gonna do this. I read somewhere where it says familiarity breeds contempt. And sometimes your own mate, your own siblings, you can't seem to get along in a business environment. Not because there's a connection with somebody means that there is clarity. So I think that agreements need to be drawn up for everybody to fully understand their role when it comes to business. Talk to me, family, about some of the common mistakes we make when we set up businesses, family businesses, that we need to correct.
Well, I think starting off, especially for small businesses, not using the many resources. If you're in this country, SBA is one of the best resources that you can use. SBA has programs in place to help small businesses start from point A to actually launching the business. And they have mentorship programs. They can help you find finances, whether it's loans, grants, which you don't have to pay back the grants. A lot of small businesses, especially Black-owned businesses, use their own money.
Is that a good thing?
No, it's not. No, it's not. Not at all. There are small businesses that approach small banks rather than private enterprises to try to finance their company, and they deal with sometimes bias. Sometimes they're not prepared to show that they will be a viable business in the next 3 to 5 years. They haven't set that up on paper or spreadsheets to show that they have, they will, last through the test of time. Marketing is huge. Marketing, advertising your business. If you don't market your business correctly, you may have a great product or service and nobody knows about it because you're not marketing. And I don't suggest large advertising agencies. Get someone who'll be dedicated to your business or can be dedicated to your business. Recruiting people seems to be a huge thing as well. You have to have people who are qualified and knowledgeable to find the right person for the right position in your business. If the person who's recruiting, that you've assigned to recruit other people for your business, is not knowledgeable about your business, what's the point? What's the point?
So, Sam, something that hit me at the beginning of the show here, as you introduce hybrid executive. Tell me how that knowledge that's within those pages of hybrid executive, how can that as a whole help a family starting to do business, whatever it might be, whether it's something that they're producing out of their own kitchen or a brick and mortar setup that they have running outside. How can the information in that book, The Hybrid Executive, help an individual to go along the right path?
Well, the book, again, a lot of the experiences, some of it, I mixed in were real that I lived. Some of it had to do with people who gave experiences. In many aspects, you have to be in it to win it. You have to, the initial move or the initial step may have probably come from seeing your parent doing something or someone that you look up to. So maybe an uncle, maybe an aunt that was an entrepreneur. And, you sort of saw that as part of. But in getting back to the book, I do lay out principles. Some of it would be things like leadership. Some of it would be to build confidence. Some of it would have to do with understanding the game plan, how to approach seeing if a business idea that you have is viable. Does this make sense to invest into? Then, if you're going to invest into it, who are you going to be competing against?
Right.
If you and your competitors didn't exist, who would be, what would the people that's buying, your customers, if what you're providing doesn't exist or your competitors doesn't exist, what would be the other thing that they'll be doing? What's that alternate thing? Which will eventually become some form of a competition to you as well. So how do you navigate all of that? And there are ways to sort it out. So these are some of the things I outline in the book, in Hybrid Executive, because it relates to the music business, but I do use a lot of principles that if you can apply it to what industry that you're into, if you're into clothing, fashion, you're into research, science, whatever it is, marketing is marketing at the end of the day, business is business at the end of the day. They all follow the same thing. At the end of the day, you need revenue coming in, or you need money that's coming in. What is your ROI? These are all types of things that you have to consider.
I need for you to break that down, because not everyone, sometimes you're out of business and you may not necessarily understand what ROI means. Could you just break that down for in layman terms?
So now you putting me on the spot in a good way, but your ROI is really what your return on your investment. So it has to do with, okay, I'm investing this amount. What's the return I'm going to get on it? So if I'm going to give you $10 and in 2 years, I'm going to get back $20, that's a good thing. That's a positive thing. Now, of course, I don't want to give you $10 and then in 2 years, you just give me back 20. I mean, that's, you can't even buy coffee with that. But let's add some zeros to that. And then now it can make sense.
Makes sense.
But go ahead.
Yeah, Karin, you also mentioned SBA earlier on. I understand what the SBA is, but in layman terms, explain to other people what exactly is the SBA. What do those letters stand for?
Small Business Administration, I think it is.
Association, Small Business Association.
Yeah,
and that does exist
just in the US.
All 52 states. So that you can look into the SBA and get that information that you stated earlier on. Yeah, thank you. I just needed for you to clarify that. Lucy O'Brien made a very important point. Put that up on the screen again for Sam, where she said, thinking you can do it all without help. This is something that I had to learn. And when I say lately, I'm talking about within the last couple of years, where I had to learn to ask for help, to reach out to someone and said, could you do this for me, please?
That's on
because for so long, I've just been riding this horse across the desert and thinking, yeah, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. And your friend might be on a train running back and forth. And you there on a horse going across the desert and not realizing, wait a minute, I could park up that horse and hitch a ride with my boy who going back and forth. Ask for help.
Ask for help, and also, Curtis, if you know that computer work or digital, anything digital related is not your strong point, not your strength, find someone who that's simple for them. Maybe that's their line of work. Pay out the little money, get it done, and take that weight off your back so you can focus on other parts of the business. Or you know that finances, if you know that payroll is not your thing, delegate it to a small company or one person. Bring in someone to do your payroll.
I'm happy you mentioned that because back to hybrid executive, some of the leadership principles is knowing what your strength is and knowing the people
what
that
your weaknesses are.
Right. So those are the people you want to, bring into your space. I call it into space because remember the flip side of what we're dealing with is in our community, the dollar doesn't really circulate much. So some of the principles would work for other ethnicities where the money is spinning a little bit longer. So it does make sense. But for folks like us, we can't really, although we might want to depend on family as, hey, we just did this business and the first people you start moving to is cousin and uncle and auntie.
Don't talk about that.
I know, but I just touching it. We because of where we are, we have to look at it from a little more general point of view. And it would have to do with your strengths, your weaknesses, how you're going to overcome that hurdle. Because win, lose, or draw, if this is a goal you're going to go for, you have to go for it regardless of if the community you come from, do they support businesses? So I just wanted to throw that in there. That was a very good point.
Yes, go ahead, Karen. Go ahead.
No, I saw a stat that says something like 80 to 90% of the businesses in North America are family-owned businesses, which was to me was like, wow, I had no idea. I knew it was, they're a big contributor to the gross national product in the country. Huge.
A lot of us with setting up businesses, we also need to understand that sometimes you might have to leave certain people behind. Not everyone you associate yourself with may be a good fit for your future vision of yourself, where you're trying to go. You are not meant for everyone, and not everyone is meant for you. Not because you're cool with someone and you hang out means that you're supposed to go into business together. You understand? You're good for the club, you're good for the corner, you're good for certain things. But when it comes to business, your brother or it might be your sister or your cousin or somebody may not necessarily be a good fit.
You have to be in sync with your goals and your mission.
Exactly. And your values, your morals, your principles, the things that also hold a business together. Because that is what, in the end, create your reputation. Correct?
You're building your brand, and your brand has to be above board.
Yeah, there are certain people you just have to leave behind. If anyone saw the movie recently on Netflix, what's the name of it with Kevin Hart and Wesley Snipes? It's testimony of that. Some people you just have to leave behind because you keep going along and they may just keep pulling you down, and
True
you have,
story is the name.
yeah, you have to realize, hey, I have to cut ties with this individual and learn how to operate a business as a business, because at the end of the day, that is in fact what it is, a business.
And if it's a family-owned business, a lot of consideration has to be given to some other areas like labor costs, and maybe there are certain materials that you're going to use that are that have unions. You have to deal with labor unions, and their labor unions are very demanding organizations. You have to deal with national and international competitors, so you have to be able to know how to bid for contracts and hopefully underbid so you can get that little thing in, and healthcare costs for your employees. You know what I mean? If you want to retain your employees, you've got to think of what's the best package I can offer them to keep them. You don't want to keep on, every few months you have to retrain, reorient employees to your company. That's very, very disorganized, and it's very uncomfortable for clients. Just every 3-4 months they're seeing new faces. You don't want that.
Talk to me for a minute, Sam, the importance of taking care of the legalities of a business. Like, I think I mentioned this earlier, like contracts between business partners instead of, handshakes and promises, filling out the proper paperwork when it comes to like your taxes and your tax ID, EIN number, and all of these things. We're talking about in America now. We know we have different laws in different parts of the world, but there's still paperwork. There's still legalities when it comes to setting up an entity. And too many of us, we run along with a business and we just treat it like a hustle instead of setting it up like a business for it to have for it to be legal and for it to have longevity. We tend to overlook some of the legal structure that we need to take. How important is that?
It is extremely important. And the reason why I'm putting the word extremely on top of that, it's also a way to separate the serious from the not serious. If you're within a little conglomerate and they say, okay, we're going to do this business, and you're basically stating what you want to get out of this business, or what it is that you're looking for, what are the incentives, what are the different things that, many of us come from a background where you give me a drop. You get a drop. Give me 2 mango, and yeah, I need some salt and some sugar thing, whatever. And well, we're gonna go and do this over so, and it was stuff done from the heart. When you have that in your system, it's kind of hard to talk about business. And so when and it's something that we neglect, because everyone will think that everyone is going to take care of everyone, but in the end, everyone does not take care of everyone. Somebody get a brain and say, okay, I'll take this bag of money and run with it, because we rarely have anything in writing. We don't have anything set up right. We don't have everything standardized. I can't even start to tell you the list of families who are here, people that are here sending money home to different, whether you're from Jamaica, you're from Trinidad, you're from Barbados, you're from Guyana, wherever you're from. These families are sending home money either to help with a business or to help build a house, or they have something, the house need repairs. They're sending all this money down, and guess what? No work is being done. Somebody's receiving the money. No one started the business. No one fixing the roof that the money was sent to fix. And it might be to, if the light get cut off, it might be to turn on back the light, but that is as far as it might go. When so now you have people who are working here have to take time off, go to where they're from, to make sure that the money they send is being put to the right, being appropriated properly the way how it was sent there. So we have all that problems that we have to work with. So yes, paperwork first. Paperwork, unless it's somebody that your pampers change together and all your pelt mango together, or you cut up the same chicken and fry them and make curry dumpling and everything. If you don't have that with this person,
But even if you do, Sam, this is that brings me, you know, into a question I want to ask here. Let me ask both of you, and I want to hear from the listeners also. Do you have what it takes to fire your mother or your significant other from a family-run business if they're not performing up to par? Do you have what it takes?
Fire. That sounds so harsh, but it's real. I do. I definitely do. But I don't. I'm more very formal when it comes to business. I do believe that you can separate the personal relationship to a certain extent, and when we get into that office or that company, it's all business. When we step out, we can resume our little chat. I'm all business. Yeah, I can. But I can also be respectful when I'm doing it. You know, some people are real cut and dry and just boom, you know, or big argument break out. I'm not with that, you know, because you still have to deal with these people as your family. You know what I mean? But I can do it.
What, before I answer what if I can or not, what some people do in the beginning, family and friends, what they will do is actually have that conversation and say, look, everything is not for everybody.
True that.
Don't be surprised if I have to move you to a different place in the business, or I may have to just basically say, it ain't gonna work. So you have some owners or some founders of businesses that will actually put that in the beginning. So then if the person understands they're not performing, you can continue that conversation and say, guess what? These benchmarks I needed you to meet, you're not meeting them. So you can either make it an ongoing conversation, and if they don't get it together, you'll have to say, look, I know I go see you Sunday for weekend dinner, but I have to be here.
But
right?
Not enough of them do, unfortunately. I love the fact that people can sit down and talk, but not enough of them do.
But before I forget, I'm sorry.
No, you could.
One of the things when I was doing my business degree, I'm trying to remember what course it was. One of the courses I had to do, it was so cold. When I tell you cold, after doing that course, I understood why it's a cutthroat type of a thing when you're making business choices. And I say, wow, this is a harsh thing. I say business, you know, so for me, you know, when you come from a certain kind of background and you care about people and you want the best for everybody on board, and you know, so it, you know, when you have to cut someone that is family or a close friend, it's not going to be easy. But
no, it's not.
If the business is going to work,
if you want your business to thrive, you have to do what's best for your business.
You have to make those types of choices, as tough as they are.
You do.
At least it's better than the mob when the mob just to say, well, you know, win, lose, or draw, they take you out.
I think sometimes it does come from the early stages when you assess people and you assess their strengths, as Karin said earlier on. You assess individual strengths and weaknesses and realize that, you know what, you have a good heart, you really want to work in the business, but the best place for you is in the storeroom, not in the boardroom. Right? The person may be a hard worker. They work hard, they lift, they sweat, they do this, they organize. And they say, yeah, I'm a business partner, but the best place for you is not in the boardroom. You might have to work in the storeroom and take care of the inventory and box up the t-shirts when everything gets printed and take care of the orders for the shipping and for the whatever. Not in the front room. And sometimes a lot of people tend to not know their place within an organization, and this makes things make that communication break down, because they say, no, well, I'm an equal partner in the business, but they want me to work in the basement, and they're meeting the people, because that may not be a strength. And some people need to know their place and stay in their lane when it comes to business in order for the success of the venture for it to go through.
Well, you said know their place, and that sounds sort of negative. I think that you're talking about strengths, and if we're talking about a two-person,
I'm talking about positioning when I say
Yeah.
place in terms of where you serve best.
if it's a two-person partnership starting out, let's say, you have to, as you said, know your strengths, know your partner's strengths, and make an agreement up front rather than, start out thinking you're both going to be doing the same things. That doesn't make sense. That driving force, you need that momentum. So if I'm best in the back room and, calling the clients and making appointments and all of that, doing the inventory, that's what I'll do. But set your roles up front.
Yeah, let's that brings up another important point, etiquette.
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 Yeah.
Within a family-run business, certain necessities, certain things we grew up on saying please and thank you, just as you would if you were working out in the corporate world. Sometimes we tend to take each other for granted simply because we're family or simply because we're friends. And the simple thank you, you did a good job. I really appreciated that. And I think sometimes within family-run business, we lose that etiquette within family-run businesses. And it's something that I think that should be first and foremost. It's something that needs to be exercised. So with this way, people feel appreciated for their input, appreciated for their contributions. And sometimes we may tend to forget that because, yeah, my sister, here's my wife, here's my this, and you forget to practice these simple things. Good job. Thank you.
That goes across the board.
It's important.
Gratitude and courtesy is priceless.
It's an important thing. But yeah, it is something that folks can neglect as you go, because they're like, oh, what did I forget to say something to you? What's up? I need to give.
When they don't show up, you're surprised. When they don't show up to work, you're surprised.
Well, I know we moved on from it, but there was a point that I wanted to address. Is one of the things I did with my business with samsdigital.net. As you guys know, it's a marketing company, and we do advertising and things like that for clients, digital online stuff. One of the things I started doing was providing something in my service that would be unique. So, for example, when I did a website for a client, I will tell them in the end, after they paid, that there's a 2-week window that any minor changes that need to be done will be done at no extra charge to you. That was something that other businesses didn't provide. Right? So that would be one thing. And then I always kept it where I would be very accommodative to the client, unless they wanted to be totally obnoxious. You don't want to go there. But if everything is kept respectable, you can give little breaks as you go. What that did for my business is sort of like a word of mouth, and word of mouth. Other people start coming for service, whether it's to put together a marketing campaign or they needed a website. And the other thing too is that I also was able to do for some of the clients who needed to be able to go into their websites and do changes for themselves. I'll give them a walkthrough. Okay, this is how you sign in. This is how you get here. This is how you get there. Give them all an overview of things that, but the objective is, if you're providing a service or you're selling a product, however you do it, see what you can put in there that's unique enough that the customer would appreciate. And that in turn would make you, it would sort of put you a little bit aside from what everyone in the pack is doing.
Did you outline in writing what minor, during that 2-week window, what minor adjustments were? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, not a they don't come a week later and say, yeah, we need to redo this whole thing.
Oh yeah, we have those.
There are over 5 million family-owned businesses in the United States, and just a little over 2 million that are Black-owned. But what surprised me from those stats was that before COVID, before anything related to COVID, about, I believe the number was somewhere around 40% of those businesses went out, Black-owned businesses went out of business, which was like, what's going on? You know?
Why do you think that is?
As I said, a lot of them, they start with their own money. They're not going through different channels trying to get the loans, or they're dealing with problems trying to get the loans and they use their own funds. And then all types of problems come up. We all know that. Anything you're starting, you can anticipate 10 problems before you get off the ground. They're using their own money and failing, running out of capital.
So quick question, Karen.
It takes about 2 to 5 years to really get set.
No, I was just going to ask you. So you see something wrong with using your own money? Maybe
it's not that it's wrong. It's that it allows you. It's almost like you're emptying your basket. You're investing in self and in your own business, but you're emptying your basket. Non-Black companies don't do that. They use the bank. They use private financiers. They use SBA. They'll use anything they can get their hand on and keep their little stack of money on the side. We, unfortunately, because we run into so many problems getting loans, if you don't have collateral, if you can't forecast that you'll be, still in business in 3 to 5 years, a lot of companies won't dole it out for you the way they will to other companies. But they use their own, and then they run out. They run out after a couple of years. If any major issues, whether it's weather related, product related, maybe suppliers, having problems with suppliers, delivering stuff on time, they run out of money.
So
40% is huge.
What I would want to inject here, as you said that, is there's something called a feasibility study, which is another thing that my business provides, where we do an overview of what it is you're looking at. It's about, I'll say a feasibility study is about 70 to 80% of a business plan, really. And it's a very key component that many of us don't adhere to. You have a business idea, either get a feasibility study done by your accountant. An accountant can do it for you. Someone that he or she, if they do your taxes annually, they'll have an idea of your numbers and things like that. Or you can find, companies like mine that, you have to pay for it. It's a time-consuming thing. But it's best to pay now, bite the bullet now and understand, okay, this is the playing field, so that you don't have to get bitten, 6 months down the road.
Down the road, yeah.
So a feasibility study is what folks would want to invest in on any business that you're doing, because that's a lot of businesses fail because they don't take that step. They're like, well, this is a great idea, and then let's put X amount of dollars to start, and then they start without knowing, okay, well, what's the playing field? Is it we need to wear rollerblades? We need to wear ice skates, you know. What we need? We need boots and a cutlass. We need
Yeah,
a tractor to drive.
They didn't quite prepare for some of the obstacles that maybe that are sure to surface ahead.
No preparation, no preparation was done. And here you are in the middle of the melee. And next thing you know, you close your doors. So which makes sense to what Karin was saying in terms of, okay, well, use other money, not necessarily your money.
Yeah, OPM.
Right, because
other people's money.
Once it because it's high risk. If you have to close the doors, at least you still want to have something you can
but one of the risk we take in using other people's money, we have to understand that money needs to come from the right sources.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you take $1,000 from I almost say my Uncle Joe. I do have an Uncle Joe. You take $1,000 from your Uncle Joe, and you take another $1,500 from Aunt Mary. They all meant well in loaning you this money for you to start the business. But as Karin's saying, without them understanding that it takes X amount of time for that business to even see a profit, and then 6 months down the road, Aunt Mary turned around and said, "Listen, such and such happened.
Need the money.
And I need that money back." And that money is tied up in just some of the legalities, so to speak, of getting the business up and running. You didn't even start the business right yet, to the point where you start doing transaction, and Aunt Mary need her $1,500 back. So now you caught in that predicament. How do I pay back Aunt Mary? And Aunt Mary start nagging you, thinking that you already crossed $1 million in revenue because you have a business.
It's not just the nagging, it's the fact that the entire family is probably going to find out that Aunt Mary, who's retired and on a fixed income, loaned you this money in good faith, and you seem like you're taking advantage of Aunt Mary. And
everybody looking at the facade, they look at the website being set up, they're looking at you going to these
business meetings and
business meetings and networking events, and they say, he doing good, things good, and then Aunt Mary said, pay me back. And your business didn't get off the ground yet. So you talk about using other people's money, but is it a safe thing to just take money from Uncle Joe and Aunt Mary?
Tough call.
This is probably where we could introduce the newer. Go ahead, Karin. I'm sorry.
No. I was trying to listen to what you were saying. I wasn't saying.
Oh, I was saying this is where we could introduce a lot of the newer types of ways to raise funding. Is what we would call crowdfunding. One of the most popular one is GoFundMe.
Isn't that begging though, Sam?
No, it is not begging, and that is a major misconception that people think that GoFundMe is begging. Kickstarter and Indiegogo and all of these things. Yes, but I understand why in our community people think it's begging, because they're not interested in opening their eyes to the bigger picture. Basically, you're reaching out to people that are interested in what you're doing. Whether you're bringing out a brand new watch, you're starting a franchise, you created a new type of burger that you want to have a stand, and you need X amount of dollars to put it. You want to start a lemonade thing, whatever it might be, and you tap into the people that will support that, and you create you give perks. So it's not a form of exchange where you give the person their perks that you provide in there. And
are those highly successful? Because I've heard recently in the news that those GoFundMe things are not highly successful, especially people of color. People of color don't support other people of color.
Well, that's
they don't.
That's a whole different.
They
It's
don't.
it's a true thing you're saying. However, the reason why has nothing to do with if the thing is successful or not. There are people who
I see people put up GoFundMe pages for operations to cut their cat toenail, and they raise $10,000-$15,000 so that the cat could have an operation on the toe. And there are people that put money towards things like this, but yet still they're not going to give you $5 towards launching your own brand of cookies.
Our folks are like, wow.
Our folks
Special.
like to see our tongues halfway on the floor, you know, and say, "Oh yes, let's donate to this person. They look like they're going undead." So yeah, they prefer to give money that way if you're going undead. You know, you have some cancer operation, or you need a new kidney. Oh yes, we'll support that. But no, not business. Why am I helping you with business? You know, why am I helping you fix your place? So why am I helping you? Well, I did one for Archer's Gardens, and you know, someone said to me, "Why should I help you fix your place?"
Oh my goodness.
I mean, it totally meant that they didn't even understand what it was, or I mean, what crowdfunding is. They just don't have a clue of what it is, and they're thinking, well, you're out here begging, and it's a major misconception. And
yeah, I remember selling my product on the street, selling my poetry on the streets in Brooklyn, New York, and the guy said, "I'm supposed to pay you for this? I'm supposed to give you $1 for this?"
Yeah.
No, man. No, you're mad. $1 for this? But by the time I was done with he, by two. He didn't realize that my argument was strong, that I go out there and I am not faint-hearted. So whatever argument he came with, I had a rebuttal for that. And by the time I converted him, that he ended up buying too.
Interesting is that the streets of Brooklyn, if you sell on the streets of Brooklyn, that is an education in business
in of itself. Yes.
I mean, if you could sell in Brooklyn, anywhere, Flatbush, Church, Utica, you could stand up and sell a pen. You are definitely, you know, it's like the drivers, you know, New York drivers could drive anywhere. You know, you could do business anywhere if you could do business in
Agree with that.
New York.
First of all, to stop somebody and get their attention is in of itself a task, a formidable task.
I did something. It wasn't really on purpose, but it happened by default. I was selling the Return album, and you know, I remember that I wasn't working at a certain point, and Shade was a baby at that time, so I will have Shade in my in a little sack. I'll either have it in the front or in the back. And then I'll have my bag with CDs, and we hitting the road.
A lot of people, they don't know the struggle, Sam. They don't know the
people,
real hustle. The real hustle.
People will see, oh, the baby is so cute. And oh, and what are you doing, sir? You're such a nice father. Oh, you have music. Okay. And
they would buy.
They buy the CD.
So does Shade know now that she was being pimped? I gotta talk to Shade. You owe her some revenue from.
So I said,
from that album.
This is working. I said, this is.
That brings up an important point. How do we create a balance between family and business so that one doesn't suffer in order for the other one to succeed?
Hope and pray that you really did a good job before you started the business, because the business is going to pull you away for a little minute. Hope that you have a solid foundation. And if you don't, you better start working on it. And know that, you know, let your partner or your wife know that, or husband, excuse me, not to be, listen, you may not see me for a day or two, you know, because I'm, Let that
But,
person communicate with that person. Listen, this is really rough. Really rough. I gotta hit as you say, hit the pavement in certain instances, depending on the product. Be on the computer 12, 14 hours a day, depending on the product.
Because I heard TD Jake spoke about this. Something I'm seeing on social media where he said, if you want me to go out there and make that money, then I may not be the type of husband you really want. Because I may not be the husband that you truly want, because I won't be there to give you that time. And if I'm the type of husband that stays home, then I may not be the provider that you really need, because I won't be able to go out and work. So somewhere in there has to be sacrifices made. And how do we do that in such a way that the children especially do not suffer in the process?
Communicate. If you have very young babies, then whatever quality time you have, you make that the best little hour with that little baby that you can.
Or like some say, strap them on your back and take them on the hustle, right?
I've seen business ideas or business situations tear families apart. Something didn't go good, and this one they talking to that one. This thing, they was doing this, and they thief out all the money, and going on higher bills to pay over here, and ting. And what's going on is, it has a lot to do with, is there open communication? Is there transparency?
Transparency is very
there
important.
Accountability? And once you could provide these,
and don't make empty promises that you can't keep.
Yeah,
I can repay you in a year. A year later, you're struggling like hell.
Correct, and it comes down to even us not really having a matriarch in the family anymore. If you notice the whole importance of that grandfather or that grandmother that sort of kept everybody together, kept it all together, kept that relationship side of it. Now the siblings might not talk to each other, but at least all the children will go by grandma and everybody will still be good. Or they'll go by the grandparents and and uncle this one, they're talking to auntie this one or that. You have that dynamic going on, but at least the kids don't suffer. And then grandma now could tell her, hey, all the put aside that stripping is, we are here to have a meal, or we're here to have a discussion, and then that matriarch can just intervene and say, all right, you know what? When these when some of these musicians, they have to call the Honorable Minister Farrakhan to come and have a conversation, and you mediate and say, all right, guys, we
arbitrate.
It's the same thing, and I as I'm saying this, I remember the Soul Food movie. The matriarch is an important thing that a lot of families don't have today. So we either we have to make adjustments. Is that a time that's gone? Is it a changing of the guard? Where are we with this?
We meaning you and I, Sam, we are becoming the matriarchs, whether you want to realize it or not.
You're patriarchs. You didn't get
patriarchs. Yes, right. The patriarch. We are becoming. When I said we're talking about our generation now.
Patriarchs.
We are becoming that, and we're not even realizing it.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful thing. If you're the focal point in the family, and they know that they can come to you, they can get advice, about business, about if you buck your toe, get up. If they know that you are the person that they can reach out to, you know what I mean.
Let me ask you all something though. And I remember when Karin first heard some authors speak on this, how shocked she was.
Which Karin you talking about?
You, Karin, you. But let me ask the question: of any of you, and for the listeners also, ever started a business venture and somehow expected your friends and family to support you?
All the time.
No, man. No.
All the time.
I was in a room with,
13.
About 20 authors.
13 authors.
Is it 13?
13 authors on a panel.
Yeah. It was a book festival. and the major library in the area, and I went there, and they basically said things that I heard Curtis say. But you know, when you hear one person say it, you're like, okay, and you're like, dang, your family not getting back to you. They're not clicking a little button on YouTube or on Facebook or on IG.
Nope.
And you're like, nah, come on, because I know the type of person I am. And you just have to call me, text me, say, hey, listen, this is what I'm doing. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal to me. And if I trust you, I know that you're not trying to get me to buy something behind the scenes, or, you know what I mean? Anything, Jamaican would say anything bandulu, anything sort of not quite legal. But if I trust you and you say, listen, go on Facebook, type in Caribbean Feedback, choose any show, subscribe. Sure.
That's what
all that means. All that means is that when the show is coming on, you're going to be alerted in some way, you know, and you can even turn off the alerts. But you know, the subscription helps to build the momentum of the show and blah 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 blah. And people, I was like, wow. But with the book thing, people were like, I have written 13 books and my sister hasn't read one. What?
It can happen. Yeah, that's real.
What do you mean?
And it was the same story. Author after author told the same story.
It was consistent. It was consistent. And that was an eye-opener for me. Your family won't read your book? Your children? Your sister? What do you mean? I'd have an advanced copy wherever I have to find the money to get the advanced copy. No,
yeah, the author had written well over a dozen books.
I was very naive about that. Extremely naive.
Over a dozen books before she got her daughter
to read
one. And after the daughter read that book, she said, Mommy, you wrote this? Because she couldn't believe that. That's my mother, and she always inside say, you always on the computer, she writing something. Oh yeah, she come out with a book. Okay, well, right. Yeah, another one. Oh, that 5. Yeah. 5 books. Right. And probably on the 13th or 14th book, the daughter, somehow the title of the book somehow spoke to her, and she picked it up and realized she couldn't put it down. And after reading the entire book from cover to cover, she had to run, Mommy, you wrote this? And then realized that, wait a minute, but Mommy has some sense. What Mommy's saying? And so then she decided now that she had a friend or two that needed to read this information. So she started pushing the book to the couple of associates that needed to get this information that was in the book. And that is how she came on board and started helping her mother to market her books. Because the title of one book spoke to her. She opened it and couldn't put it down. And that's how she came on board.
Why don't we value each other and what?
Well, we need to have a similar experience to Kyle Kanai.
Oh, yeah. Tell that story for us, please. I remember that.
Kyle Kanai, as you guys know, is a clothing designer. And, you know, Biggie wore it. Puffy, Tupac wore it. I mean, a lot of the golden era of hip hop, a lot of them wore Kyle Kanai at the time. And so his son is in school now, and the kids were like, "Yo, your dad is Kyle Kanai."
Your name. Your name is familiar.
His last name is Kanai. You know, so it's like, your dad, you related to Kyle Kanai? That's my dad and whatever. Now, of course, Kyle Kanai is telling the story, and the son never showed interest in nothing. So this particular time now, he went to the dad and said, "Yo, could I get some of the clothes? You want to wear some of the stuff?"
No, well, before that, when he went to his father and he said, "All of my friends in school, you know, telling me that you are such and such. You know, what is going on with that?" So the father now had to go and show him the commercials on YouTube with Tupac sitting up on the hoop in the clothes. So he said, yeah, I've seen that. He said, yeah, that's my clothes. So now he asked the father, do you have any more of that stuff? Any more of that? So the father gave him a few pieces, and now he started wearing the retro stuff to school, and he became all popular, like, yeah, you can't, can I? But this guy did not know that what his father did, and he lived in the same house.
Wow, it's just amazing.
All he knew, his father was in the basement on the sewing machine, have a bunch of sewing machines and cloth and all kind. He always down there cutting and sewing something. That's all he knew. But he never paid any interest, nor did the mother educate the son as to what it is the father was doing. There was that serious disconnect in the household that you became a teenager in high school and did not know what your father did for a living.
Wow.
You didn't know what paid for that house that was over your head and the Xbox and everything that you were playing with.
It's something we have to work on.
So let me ask you all something. How do you cope with friends and family not supporting your business? Because I got bitter recently about something, and I had to check myself this evening, and I really had to check myself. I'm still angry. I'm still bitter. But I know I have to get over that and keep moving. So let me ask you all something. How do you all cope with your so-called friends and family not supporting what it is you do? Help me.
I've been initially I was just really surprised because I'm so I'm just very supportive of anything positive that anyone is doing around me. If they say, Karin, can you come out and help me out one day? I'm like, okay, what day? Oh, yeah, no problem. It's for me, it's no big deal to show support to someone. I may not have the money to invest, but if I have the time or whatever else you need, I'm there for you. And I didn't see that. And I got a couple of comments on IG over the telephone, and made me perk up my ear, like, really? Oh no. I was a little bit bitter for a while. I had to get over it though. But it took me a minute. But it was more disbelief that I'm so supportive in whatever the situation somebody's going through, and there was no reciprocity.
I think I told you all before about a co-worker that told me to pay him $50 and he will subscribe to Caribbean Feedback. He says, simple, pay me $50 and I'll go on and I'll subscribe. But why should I go and subscribe and help you with something that you're going to eventually be making money from?
I don't get it.
He said, why should I help you do that? He said, pay me $50. I'll go on and I'll subscribe for you. I said, okay. Mind you,
it makes you distance yourself, in a situation where maybe you normally, would have maintained some civil thing. Makes you distance yourself because you're like, what?
So going back to the Kalkanai argument, let me ask you something, Sam. How important it is for our children to see us operating as business owners, where they could have that image of what an entrepreneur or what a boss supposed to look like?
It's important. I think, again, for our community, it's not something. And I would say of all the older generations understood it and the kids got it, but somehow it got lost. Maybe from the 80s coming up. Something happened there where your parent would be doing. You're an author, you're an actor, whatever it is, and then the kids don't have a clue. They don't have a clue. They're not interested. There's no connect. I remember, and this is a little off, but it will make sense. Some years ago, I'm in the subway in New York again during some hard times in the winter. This is 2012, and the economy hasn't bounced back yet. And no one is hiring. I graduated that year too. I'm now come back to me here. But anyway, we're in the subway. Three of us we have wives and we have children, and we're playing in the winter for, you know, to make some money there. And on one of the stops we had stopped, and there was a family, I think they were from South America, and they were at this little section in the subway. It had to be about maybe 10 guitars, or it might not have been that much, maybe 6 guitars.
Mm-hmm.
2 percussionists, and they had these bamboo, they're not really flutes, I forgot the name, but it's bamboo and they're wind instruments. So you blow into them and it sounds like birds and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole family is there. If you're not playing an instrument, you're moving through the crowd with a cup. Right? So the kids was moving through the crowd with a cup, getting donations. And the grandparents, the older ones, the really older ones, I mean, that need to walk with a cane, you know, they have a thing, and all of them. And the 3 of us looked at this and we say, do you ever think our wives and kids
Hell no. Hell no.
will do this? Of course, we laughed, right? Because we know that no way they're coming out in the cold and do this, right? But this is a family that came out and they say, hey, we had to get groceries and whatever. They come out and they play some music and they make some money and go back with it. And it sounded pretty good too. It wasn't like it was sung in shabby. I mean, they were playing some really good music, you know. So it's one of the things that, you know, at least I'm happy I did with my girls is that when I went to the studio, they came to the studio. When I went to do, you know, I went to play at a church or perform somewhere, a lot of times they came. So at least they were able to see, okay, this is what Daddy does. Or
you said you didn't realize. I'm hearing an echo of my voice. Sorry. You didn't realize what happened in the 80s. I think that in hindsight, this is just in hindsight, that when these little video games and still things, that's the time, the 80s, 90s, they started to come out, and the attention was to the arcades. For me in New York, that was true. Not for me personally, but that's what I saw the trend to be. So I think the attention was away from home to the arcade with friends, or even in the home with a little whatever at the time, Atari or whatever those games were at the time. I think that was a major change, you know, mid 80s, 90s. And then later on, it only got worse with your Xboxes and stuff like that. So the attention was no longer the family and the conversations at the dinner table or in the living room. Their attention was diverted to, you know, different games. That was a major change in that time. So I don't know if we can really say that that's the reason, but that is a contributing.
It makes some sense to be part of the reason.
Mm-hmm. Karin, New York, yes.
Karin, I want you to cover something before we run out of time. I almost forgot. What are some of the woes? I know you don't too much like that word, but what are some of the woes of being a woman in business?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've heard about the black man's experience here in the United States of America. However, being black and female in a work environment, you and even, I wouldn't say necessarily a black man, you and a white female doing the same job, same education, same qualifications, and that person got a better sign-in bonus, got relocation maybe, got a higher hourly rate of pay or a higher salary if you're salaried. You're not thought of as being equally qualified, even though educationally you may at the same level or even higher than that your white counterpart. It's a lot of different challenges as a woman, and you just have to like fight. If you find out that this person is getting the same money and using the same title, oh no, you have to fight for what you need, you know. And depends on the company you're in. You may have proper avenues like a good human resource department or something. But but
that's in corporate. That's in the corporate structure.
In corporate.
But what
You
about
know,
as a businesswoman?
as a business person, you show up as a woman of color and you feel like you just stepped into a car dealership. You're not taken seriously. You have to sort of assert yourself, and you don't want to be overly aggressive because it's viewed as nasty, the B word. But you do have to assert yourself differently as a woman, as a Black woman, not take a lot of crap from people. But you're trying to get the client, but you can't afford to be overly aggressive. But you have to be assertive, more assertive than a male, even a Black male, because you're just dealing with all types of assumptions. And don't be a woman with natural hair. That's another little issue that let's not even go into that. Let's not even go into that. But I think you're less qualified.
Could I take a minute and could I share my story? What happened to me this week?
Yeah, share.
Could I share my story?
No names. No names.
Let me make this short. Listen, people. I have a business, right? I sent an employee out to do an estimate on a job. Now the employee happened to be white, and I sent him out to do an estimate on a job for a white client. He went out, he gave the estimate, he presented it to the client. The client agreed, everything fine. I went to pick up the job with the employee. Client was there. I presented invoice to client. Client paid me. Client's wife paid me. Everything fine. Job completed. We went back to install the job. Client okays the job. I gave him the invoice. He signed off on the invoice. Stuck his hand in his pocket, take out the money, and pay the employee. I'm standing there. Now, this is the man I handed my business card to. This is the man I spoke to on the phone. This is the man I spoke to about the job. And I sent a white employee out to handle the job. And when the man took out the money to pay for the job, and I'm standing next to him, the man reached over and handed the other white man the money. And I'm standing up right there.
And I said, what I would have done was interceded. I would have been between those two hands. Whoop! It's either that or I would have corrected that person verbally. Like, no.
All I could have done was laugh.
You diffused the situation, which was a good thing.
All I could have done was laugh. And I looked at him. I looked at him and I laughed. I said, "Don't worry, man. My money is safe in his hands."
My temperament would not have allowed me to laugh.
I said, "My money is safe in his hands. Don't worry yourself."
I would have just stretched and got it. Anyway.
So it just has to show with as Karin talk about being a Black woman in business, it's hard out there for people.
It's hard out
the white employee was really in the client's eyes
the boss
of the business.
The person who's qualified is considered to be pop, whatever they're.
Even though he met me and I gave him the business card and we spoke about the job and we spoke about all of this, and he called me to set up for the appointment and all of that, he still look at both of you and say, "Well, nah, I guess this is too much money for you." All I could do was laugh, bro.
So you go out with your significant other, and you pay for the meal. You pay, right? And let's say change came back. The person come and bring the change and give it to the lady.
Oh yeah. That happens. That happens. You just laugh that one off and let you keep it.
All right.
But before we go,
Sorry.
Yeah, before we go, we have to talk about succession planning when it comes to business. Sometimes this is something that we as a people tend to ignore. And let me ask the question, how important it is to take care of business matters as to who should take over in the event you suddenly drop dead?
Estate planning.
Let me finish. Or worse yet, if you should live, but you're unable to run the business. You're still alive.
Estate planning.
And if you don't have succession planning, how important it is for us to take care of these business matters. Should a clear, concise plan be set in place to guide family members as to how to proceed. If you have a business that's worth preserving, right? First, if you have something that's worth preserving, then I think it's my opinion, I think it's essential for us to mentor. It's essential for us to teach, because truth be told, some of these businesses that we spend a lifetime building up will eventually be sold out the minute we're gone. So I think it's important here for us to nurture our children in such a way that they wouldn't want to that they would want to buy into what it is we are creating. And this way, I think they would have a vested interest in that business when we're gone. So I think we need to mentor, we need to teach, so that what we build up, they don't end up just selling it off. How important is success planning?
That was one of the longest sentences, sir. One of the longest sentences. Anyway, it is essential to have more than just a living will or a will or a living trust. About a third of the family businesses here in the US, that's all they have. It's important to have a durable power of attorney, should, in case, as you stated, you become incapacitated physically or mentally. You want to make sure you have someone named in writing, so that there's no, 4 or 5 siblings, sons or daughters, and everybody's fighting. No, daddy wanted me to do this. No, mommy wants me to do that. No. Beneficiaries must be designated in writing. A healthcare power of attorney, separate from a durable power of attorney. Someone to make a decision for you as the head of the company in case something goes wrong. Completely separate people. One can handle the business, one can handle any type of healthcare or medical decisions. And guardianship, if you have children who are under, say, 21, and have their trust fund or whatever, their financial packages set up, make sure there's somebody set to decide, this one gets this amount, this one gets per your wishes, or those wishes will not be honored. And that business, the average family-owned business lasts, the stats say something like 78 years. So we're talking several generations worth. You want to know that if you have put your blood, sweat, and tears into something to pass on, that your wishes will be honored. Or else, what was the point? It's my 5 cents.
Somehow we end up not selling grandma house. Some people need to understand that's part of that legacy, and they turn around, and the minute the grandma go on, they turn around, they start a fight between themselves, and they sell grandma house for the first set of money they make, and the person who come and buy it take grandma house, split it in 2, and make 3 times the money that they end up paying you, and now you're looking for an apartment, someplace to live, because we don't have the foresight to realize that we need to hold on to this thing that they call real estate, something that grandma buy for $5,000 back in the 40s and still holding on to it, and grandma dead, and we start to fight and bicker between each other and sell it for pennies on the dollar so that everybody could have a little money to go buy a car. How important it is to hold on to grandma house.
Well, we one of the ways would be to you want to create leaders in the downline. Well, you have conversations with the kids or the children, depending on, I don't know what kind of age group we're looking at here, but depending on the age group, we gotta have that conversation, and let them understand the business, let them understand the steps, and give them smaller activities so they get a feel for what's happening. Well, those that are interested, because that's the other thing. Are they interested? Are they not interested? I mean, do they just want to sell it off? You know, you might want to have to evaluate that too, because if you're in a business that they can't fill your shoes, then you'd have to do like what a lot of the corporations do. You'd have to, you know, train other people to fill those areas. If it's a bit, you know, so it may be something you can keep in the family, or you might have to have some foresight and say, you know, the family will just mess this up. Let me approach it another way. And then you may have to go the corporate way with a board, and you may have some what you call them, successors that will come, but it's not totally dependent on them if the business will survive. You know, or that will probably even teach them something until another successor that has that same vigor and energy, you know, or maybe that's you reincarnating. I know some people wouldn't like that.
Yeah, Trini Girl said it's better to set up a trust better than a will. And Sherry Ann Sylvester said she agreed with Trini Girl about the trust fund. Is setting up a trust the same as a trust fund? Is that the same thing?
No.
Explain the difference to me, please, somebody. Hold on, Sam, in the comments. Hold on. Could you explain that to me, somebody, the difference between a trust and a trust?
A trust fund is funds that you've set aside for your underage children or for your children. A living trust would be if there are any questions there are no questions. It doesn't have to go through the court system for anything to be worked out. Everything is really outlined. There's no probate. You do not have to go through the court system to iron out anything. Everything is sort of really straightforward. With a will, other people can come out of the woodwork and contest a will. Well, my uncle Sammy wanted me to have $5,000. He told me that 3 years ago. I want it. And then they have to go to court and fight over it. With a living trust, no such thing. No such thing.
Okay, let me acknowledge some of the people in the chat and their comments before you all take us home.
I take you home already, and I mean, no way. What are the home you want to know? Oh, God have grace.
Lucy O'Brien, thank you so. Hold on, man. I'm bringing it down. Hold on, Sam.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Don't get too touchy. You know, something else. All right,
Lucy O'Brien, thank you once again for always. Most of the time, you're the first person jumping in on the chat. Thank you so much for always being on time, always joining us. And as long as you continue to be here, we will continue to be here to give you great programming that you look forward to. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you so much for joining us. Miss Joanne M., good evening to you. Thank you for joining us. Andrea Lamont, good evening. Like she said earlier, virtual hugs to you. She asked, what happened to Mark? Did he move to Belgium? As far as I understand, no, he did not. Karin may be able better to brief you on that. Trini Girl, good evening, Trini Girl. And Andrea said, glad you cleared up the microphone issue. I am so happy that was done also, so that you all can hear me clearly. And Andrea said, we are supporting the Caribbean Feedback Family podcast. I do appreciate, and I do believe I can speak on behalf of everyone here. Thank you for that support. Absolutely. Mr. Earl Henry, season greetings and happy holidays to my cousin on my papa side, that is me. The cousin on my mama side, that is Sam. And Karin, my cousin on the Jamaican side, that's Karin. Thank you so much, Mr. Earl Henry. He has been a guest on the show on a couple of occasions. Thank you, Mr. Earl Henry, for joining us. Miss Lucy O'Brien, thinking we can do it without help. We did mention that comment. Trini Girl said, useless friends, the one that won't support you in your ventures. Set up a trust, better than a will. Sherry Ann said she agreed with Trini Fly. Irrevocable beneficiary, I do not understand what that means. I understand the two words, but I do not understand it in the sense of what we're talking about. That's just my ignorance here. Anybody care to expound on that?
A what?
Irrevocable beneficiary.
Irrevocable means it cannot be changed.
Okay.
Whoever you assign cannot be changed.
Whoever you assign to handle those affairs or to get your, okay, it cannot be changed. All right. And Andrea made some statements here. She said, I attached Caribbean Chat to my name. Prior to that, I had Excel on my intro. And then I mentioned Caribbean Chat as putting the final touch. Are you doing your due diligence in promoting yourself or business by this paradox? Andrea, you see that gentleman up there with the hashtag truth? That is the technician. So everything you see written on the screen, he's responsible for that.
Don't blame Sam for that.
Accountable.
Don't blame Sam for that.
Sam is the one that put in the thing of it.
Are you putting your name on the sitting?
I didn't do no changes. Sam changed that. All right, blame Sam. Trinity Girl say life insurance. We did speak about that on the show. We had an episode dedicated towards insurance and life insurance, and we did state some people do in fact use that as inheritance for their children to get a jump start in life by having a sound life insurance policy that can sustain their children in their departure. So people, thank you all, Trinity Girl, Sherry-Ann, and the others for joining us. So Karin, I asking you a question. I know you don't like that.
Give me closing already.
That was your closing already?
Yes.
I didn't ask you for no closing.
Right.
You just decided to close. Did you
ask me? You said we're closing out the show.
You put on or you take off close? Which one? I missed the whole thing. All right. So Karin says she done. Sam.
Yeah.
Take me home.
It'll be good to see more businesses from the Black experience take the appropriate steps and be successful or work towards being successful. And we have some ways to go. There's some challenges, but it's doable. We can attempt these things, and there are ways to make it happen. Show interest, read on these things, and even if it's light reading, sometimes light reading gives you clarity. Oh, this is what this means, or this is what this is. And some of us just need to get back to that, where we start getting back interest and understanding what a business might be, whatever business it might be, whatever service you provide, whatever product, whatever that might be, to show that interest, understand what it is, and see if it's something that you can invest in and make it work. So yeah, we have to work that, and that's really all I have to say on that in terms of family businesses.
Okay, so people, we are closing out the year on a high note. I do hope that the program that we gave tonight did leave you all with some good information. Good night, Trinity Girl. Brooklyn Soccer Nations, that's Mr. Ike. Good night to you, sir. Andrea said, hope to see you all in 2022. She enjoyed being with us in 2021, and we also enjoyed having your company. What I'd like to say in terms of whether it's family or friends, when we get together to do some kind of venture, we have to learn how to celebrate other people's successes within a group. We have to learn how to cheer for others, because one man's success in a group doesn't take anything away from you. We have to realize that while we're working as a team, when one individual succeeds, the team succeeds. So we have to learn how to become each other's cheerleader and realize that any individual success is a win for the entire team. So let's learn how to cheer for each other. Let's learn how to build each other up. Let's learn how to support each other, and together we can rise as a family. We can rise as a people. We can rise as a nation. Let us join together and help each other and cheer for each other and support each other. Peace and blessings. Enjoy your new year.
Bless. Happy New Year.
Hi, I'm Dr. Judith Barnes. I'm an author, a playwright, poet. I'm also a broadcaster by training, And I recently found out about 2 years ago that I can paint paintings, which means I paint sceneries, I paint landscape, I paint animals. I have just discovered, and so that I can do this. And so along with all the other gifts and talents that I've been blessed with, have paintings, and they are on view and for sale on Etsy and also on Facebook. And if you desire to order any painting or order one of my books, because I'm also an author, please give me a call at 470-564-8267. That's Dr. Judith, and the number again, whether you want to just talk to me or order one of my paintings or one of my books, please feel free to call 470-564-8267. Thank you.
Hello there and welcome. My name is Curtis Henry. Over the past few weeks, as we were putting the final pieces together to get the show on the road, some people asked, why do you need to showcase Caribbean people? Why Caribbean Chat? And I say, why not? Because we as Caribbean people have worked too hard, come too far, and suffered too long for us to continue taking a backseat. It's time for us to rise up, speak out, and show the world the value and the richness of our culture. So I'm providing a platform to showcase the history and culture of Caribbean people in entertainment, the arts, politics, sports, and economics. We will explore the many profound contributions they have made to society. So we invite you to stay with us as we launch what is to become one of the greatest voices of Caribbean people, for Caribbean people, by Caribbean people. On this platform, Caribbean people of excellence get to tell their story. Our aim is to ensure that your contributions are acknowledged and celebrated. Welcome to Caribbean Chat. So make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. We are Caribbean Chat.